And Ukraine, everyone.
The transportation industry doesn't usually look at a city like this. They like to focus on the asphalt. Finally, though, after more than 50 years of our love affair with car-oriented design, we're finally shifting back to human-scale design. All right, and of course, traffic engineering has to do with astronomy. When scientists thought that our sun and the planets revolved around the Earth, they had to concoct complex formulas to predict the orbits. And then when they realized that everything was actually moving around the sun, the rest of this sort of fell into place. The same thing's true with engineering. We have the car at the center of the universe, and it takes us forever to figure out how to deal with commutes, school, all these sorts of things. When we put the person at the center of the universe, everything else sort of just falls into place. Having put the car at the center of the universe, as we did in Richmond, we said in 1949, said goodbye to the streetcar. Interesting that the streetcars had to make room for more travel lanes to pump more traffic through the city instead of allowing people to move around within it. Yes, this is me and my other car, and the interstates, you might not know this, were originally called the defense highways. They were built during the Cold War to move tanks and vehicles like this between major population nodes, and those design standards are actually used on city streets. Although I couldn't drive out on city streets. This is my typical view of I-95 when I can't use the train. I'm sure everyone else has shared this view. Well, not on my lap in the driver's seat, but this is what happens when you're trapped on major highways and you don't have other street options to choose from. This is a favorite example of mine. When you hear an engineer use a new catchphrase like context-sensitive design, ask him a lot of questions. Crosswalks and ADA curves don't change the fact that you still have to run the length of a football field at this particular intersection, and lots of others just like it. This illustration kind of describes that. I mean, we laugh at the picture on the left, saying this human scale design, sure it works up top and obviously it's wrong at the bottom, but this is what we do with our streets. We have two fat streets that meet instead of a grid pattern to disperse everything. So cities are about the exchange of goods. Before pavement was all over the place, before we had organizations that had codes of ethics, our planners and engineers were looking to serve the public interest. So we saw this sort of thing all the time. Now a lot can happen in the public realm. You could take the public right-of-way like we sometimes do and construct more traffic lanes, or you can let it be an inviting place for people to hang out and spend some money. The old people spend money, cars don't spend money. This is in the heart of Arlington, an incredibly busy area. And yet with all the land use density and the commuter traffic, it's possible to have a tranquil moment like this. The infrastructure all around is friendly to people. Unlike here, right down the street in Chesterfield, where for decades traffic engineers have obsessed over mobility, or in other words, moving lots of cars very quickly. And from 2001 to 2010, in the country, over 400,000 Americans were killed in road-related crashes. I mean, 40,000 a year on roads like that. So this is the legacy that we, in my industry, are leaving behind. Imagine if private corporations owned and operated roads that were that dangerous and left this. I mean, 2 hours a day they're busy with traffic, and the 22 hours remaining looks like this. There's so much space for lanes, there's no room for business. I couldn't resist taking this picture the other day because it's the another ironic legacy that we're leaving behind in my business. We try to save a few bucks up front by not analyzing all the possibilities, and in the end, we spend millions on highway boondoggles. All right, you're not supposed to read this. These are the rules of the road for a roundabout up top, and the rules of the road for a traffic signal. Yeah, don't tell me roundabouts are complicated. Look at everything your brain has to process. You go through that exercise. All right, some of you run lights, you don't go through that exercise. On the other hand, you know, Richmond city engineers, to their credit, are very pro-roundabout. That's a good thing. Not only are they safer for bikes and pedestrians, they actually reduce fatalities by 90%. 90%. So livability, I would say, is more than a buzzword. By definition, a hazardous transportation system that threatens to kill is not very livable. Your streets and highways should look very different from each other. Over-designing a neighborhood street makes it difficult for this guy to get across. And connecting land use and transportation is about focusing on the places in Richmond that can draw people. whether car, bike, foot, whatever. Some of the best places can only be found when you get out of your car. Speaking of drawing people to extra places in Richmond, the 2015 World Bike Championships, I'm sure everybody watches local news. We might have a few local personalities here. It's expected to draw a TV audience of 300 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. We have a motivated mayor and a new bike ped coordinator to help with human scale preparations. So this is Broad Street in the early 20th century, and look how much action there is on the side of the street. It's almost the people in the cars are missing out on everything. So in one sense, maybe looking back at Richmond's past is a way we want to have our future turn out.